You're listening to episode 111, Taking Charge of Your Life and Creating Your Future with Michelle Lewis. Welcome to the Grass Gets Greener podcast, the show for survivors by survivors. I'm your host, Melissa Wilson, a bullying survivor and anti-bullying advocate. And each week you'll hear from a survivor who has overcome a traumatic experience to go on to not only survive, but thrive, so that you can too, starting now. Hello there, and welcome to this episode. Thank you for being here. I always appreciate it. So today I'm going to be joined by Michelle Lewis of VisibilityVixen.com. Michelle helps female entrepreneurs become visible, and she's just a super inspiring person. Michelle experienced bullying while she was in middle school, and she also dealt with some serious health issues growing up. In fact, she didn't think that she was going to live beyond her mid-20s, but she's been able to help herself heal from everything she's been through and create the life she wants for herself. And she's going to share that message with us here about how we can use the power that we already have and change our reality. Michelle is also going to share with us how she faced her bullying situation and was able to get that turned around, how she was able to recover her health. She's going to talk about how the body follows the mind and what that means, and her advice for anyone who is afraid of putting themselves out there. So if you're looking for some inspiration to help you take control of things in your life, then this episode is for you. And real quick before we get into it, I just want to see if you've had the opportunity to grab your free copy of the top 10 most common strategies my guests have used for overcoming past trauma. It's just a little resource I've put together for you so that you can have these tools at your fingertips to help you in your healing journey. You can find that over on the show notes pages for any of the episodes, starting with last week's. So be sure to grab your copy if you haven't yet. I think it's really helpful to have these top strategies all in one place, and I know it's something that I would have liked for myself when I was trying to figure out what could help me. So again, that's over on the show notes pages. For this episode, it'll be thegrassgetsgreener.com/Michelle Lewis, or just go to the website and click on the latest podcast episode and you can find it there. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this one, and I'm going to go bring Michelle on. Michelle, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining me here today to share your story with us.
Hey, Melissa, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So I found out about you from past guests of the show, Christina Enevoldsen, and Christina told me that you experienced bullying growing up, but that you've been able to overcome that, and now you have a business that helps women become visible. And in preparing for our call, I discovered that you've had to overcome some health issues as well. And I think what's really inspiring about you is that you've been able to create a life that you love and are living out your purpose. And I think the work you're doing today is great, and I'm excited to have you on here to talk about the things that have helped you grow into the woman you are today and how you've come to do the work that you do.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And Christina is fantastic. What a wonderful guest to choose. You did a good job.
Yeah, she's awesome. So shout out to Christina. And I know that you want to focus more on, the growth aspect of your story and, share what's helped you in your journey in the hopes that it can help those listening as well. So we will definitely do that. But before we do, of course, would you mind sharing with the listeners what you'd like us to know about what you experienced growing up, and then we'll go from there?
Of course. So in terms of health, I was born blue. I wasn't able to breathe out. So that kind of started my health journey just because I was born, immune compromised. And so that led to many years of chronic infections like pneumonia and bronchitis. So I was on antibiotics a lot. And I was just remembering the other day, every day at recess, while everyone else was running around and burning off their energy, I was in the nurse's office taking my inhalers and measuring my breath flow to make sure that I was in a safe zone. So it was definitely a challenge doing that. And I couldn't just, up and go to camp. I'd have to bring my breathing machine and all of that stuff. So by the time I was out of college, because I had been on antibiotics for, like 10 years or so, that's when I started really struggling. I was also dealing with chronic migraines, and the doctors just didn't really know what to do. We did all kinds of tests and hormone therapy, all the way to like lidocaine injections in my head to try to control the pain, but nothing helped. And my organs started to cease to function. And they now know to not have people on antibiotics so consistently over so many years, because that is a side effect. So it was definitely a challenging time in my life. And I was on bed rest for about a year and a half until my family and I found someone that studied natural medicine, which was what absolutely saved my life and helped my body start regenerating.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, to start out basically just, starting off life like that, and to have those challenges must have been really difficult and made you feel different, I imagine.
Absolutely, because you can't just be a kid. I couldn't even be a normal college student. It's like my wonderful husband, who I love to death. He's never had physical issues. And so for him, he wakes up happy, he goes to bed happy. When he was in school in Florida, he decided to do the marathon at Disney World, the 26-mile marathon, and he didn't train for it. He just got up and did it and was able to do it because his body was able to serve him in that way. And I had never known that. So it definitely was, you kind of feel like you're living life looking through a glass. And I remember in third grade, we were at school. I was with my mom and we were getting my homework assignments for the week because I was too sick to come back to school. And I snuck away to my third grade classroom and just looked in the window and saw all of my friends and classmates just participating in school, which I'm sure if you ask them, they wish that they would have had time off instead. But I just remember having my hands on the glass and just wishing that I could be normal.
Yeah, that must be the hardest thing. Just, you want to do these things and you just can't. Your body won't let you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's crazy. I mean, you were on antibiotics for 10 years. I just got off a course of antibiotics for 10 days, and that was enough for me,
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I now am very blessed to have my doctorate in natural medicine. And so now I know what antibiotics do to the body and how they suppress infection and how it kills all flora and fauna in your gut. So imagine, being on that for 10 years and what it really does to shut down your body. I wish I would have known back then.
Yeah, wow. And so were, these physical issues that you were dealing with contributing to the bullying that you experienced? Did they kind of make you a target or no?
No, fortunately, no. My bullying started when I was 12, and it was when my best friend at the time and she made an instant decision one day that we weren't going to be friends anymore. We've been best friends for like 6 years. And she really changed. And I'm sure it was because of a lot of wounds that she was receiving that I don't know about. But I became her target. And because before that happened, her and I were very popular. All of the popular people kind of sided with her. And so my world changed overnight. And like I said, it was in middle school. It started in 6th grade. And she just fully targeted me with all of her friends. And so it was, people talk about bullying now. They didn't talk about bullying when I was in middle school and high school. It was a relatively newer, no, I'm not going to say newer, but it wasn't as comfortably talked about as it is now.
Yeah.
And so it was a very, very strange time in my life. It was a huge identity shift for me, going from the outgoing, very type A personality that I am. And for those couple of years, I really hid just because I guess I just never expected to be treated that way. So it was a hard time for me.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, as someone who's gone through bullying myself, it's definitely such a difficult thing, and especially when, you're kind of going through it alone and you're not able to talk about it. And like you said, it's just not something that was really talked about as much at that time. So yeah, it's a difficult situation. And then I mean, I think, for me, like, I just started to, like, believe these things that were said about me and everything. And I know that you have um, a video on your website where, you mentioned how you were told these negative things about yourself and they kind of became your
Mhm.
reality, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. What allowed you to get to a point where you stopped believing those things?
It was hard. When your best friend sees you a certain way and criticizes you for all these different things, at least a rational person looks at that and goes, well, that must be true. There must be something in that because that was my best friend. There has to be some truth. So I spent many years in a way self-punishing because, my best friend wouldn't lead me astray, and there has to be a reason she was saying those things. And so um, I dealt with that for a long time, and other people joined in on that. And I was very blessed to have very active parents. So when it got to a point where my safety was being threatened, we were able to. I went to a Christian school. We were able to go to the principal, and he did suspend the student, had a huge meeting with their family, and it was resolved, which was great. I so feel for the people that whose parents are gone or maybe not interested, and I can't relate to that. I was very blessed. And I think it all came to one day my mom just said to me, you are the only one that can change your reality. This girl, she's not going to come around. No one's going to come around. You have to be the one to change. And that was so hard for me. But I remember that night just being in my bedroom and laying face down on my carpet and just crying out to the Lord and saying, I can't do this anymore. Please give me strength. Please rescue me out of this situation. And the next day, I just decided to walk into school with a different attitude and to not do it with that kind of like deer waiting to get pounced on, but just, you know what? I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. And I distinctly remember this one girl, her name is Katie, came up to me and was like, oh, hey, Michelle, like, what's going on? How are you doing? And I was floored. No one had spoken to me at my school unless they were, insulting me in months. And this one girl picked up on that energetic shift, and one by one, everything around me changed.
Wow, isn't that
And
interesting?
isn't that interesting? So
Yeah.
thank goodness for mom smacking me around in the ways that I needed it. And that's what really changed things for me.
Yeah, I love that. Um, and it sounds like that's kind of the approach you took with your health as well, and how you were able to start turning things around there also, right? Just by having this, mentality that you have that, that power to change it yourself.
Absolutely. I had never been told that. Every doctor says, well, you need to do this or you do this, or, oh, this is failing. Well, we don't really know why. Like, here's another medication. And I'm not slamming doctors at all. It's just when it comes to intense physical cases, you can ask any medical practitioner, and they cannot and will not use the word cure because conditions are in the Western medical world not fixable, they're sustainable. So they can prolong your life, but they cannot fully heal you through medication. So that's what I knew. And I never expected to live, beyond my mid 20s. And it's still strange to be waking up at 31 and going like, oh, like I'm still here. So when we found this natural medicine practice called Refology, that changed everything for me because these natural herbs were going through my body and actually regenerating my organs, actually curing my symptoms. And it was hard, like I'm not going to lie, I was so close to death that it was a long process. It was a painful process when your body is having to detox things that have been stored for decades. It is not fun. And that's why we like to say that healing is not for the faint of heart. But I did it, and I did it every day. And slowly but surely, I was able to come to the table for dinner, something, my dad used to have to come in and carry me in. I was able to walk outside in the sunlight and walk a little bit in the grass. And then, a couple months later, I could walk a block. And then a couple months after that, I could walk a mile. So it was a slow process, but it absolutely saved my life. But you're right. It's the physical aspect and making that daily pattern change, but it's also the mental process. And this is what I wish I would have known earlier, studying people like Joe Dispenza and Louise Hay and Joseph Morgan with Broken Children, Grown Up Pain, and really understanding that the body follows the mind. So what I had set up, you have, me being born immune compromised, therefore, you can never take care of yourself. You're not worthy of being healthy, those kind of negative thoughts that start building. And then you add bullying to that. Well, is it really that big of a surprise that my body became worse and worse and worse? Because my body was following what I was directing it to do through those subconscious thoughts. So altering those two parts of my life made a huge difference. And I know that that's entirely responsible for where I am today.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, and I mean, how are you today?
I'm good today. Yeah, my life is so different. I can't say I'm 100% healed. We still are on the very, very, very last vestige of headaches, but I don't get migraines anymore. It's just a little bit of a dull pressure. So we're working with my spine right now. But other than that, oh my gosh, my mental clarity. That's why so many women actually come into my group and they go, I'm not getting anything done in my business. Why? And the first thing I point them to is my Life Reboot course, which is pretty much all the information I learned through my healing journey put into a course, because that's where everything starts, right? It starts with the mind and healing your body. And so now I'm able to do what I do, and I love what I do, like you had mentioned, and being able to help other female entrepreneurs find what lights them up and help them step out into that limelight and out of the shadows is such a fantastic thing.
Yeah, that's great. Are there other things that, you've done to help yourself get to where you are today that we haven't mentioned yet?
In terms of personal growth?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was graduating, I decided to do my thesis on myself. I still was having chronic migraines. I did a documentary called Healing Places in America, which you can find on YouTube. And me and my husband went all over the country finding these healing places like Mineral Hot Springs, a lavender farm. Where else do we go? Like a winery, because aged red wine helps you detox emotions. All kinds of different places. And it was really a self-study to see if immersing myself in these healing places would help elevate my vibration and help me release a lot of old wounds, a lot of old physical injuries and all of that. So it was a year-long process, one I'm very happy that I did. And that was a huge part of my healing journey. And I think it's because I finally came to the breaking point of either I'm all in doing the work to heal myself, or I'm not. So that was a really powerful point in my life as well.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, we really do have more power than we realize sometimes, and to be able to change things in our lives and to heal our bodies, it's really incredible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we always have more power than we think we do.
Mm-hmm.
The best book, the book I tell everyone to read is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, because that by far is everything you need to know in order to rewrite yourself. Because most times who we are now hasn't even been built by us. It's been built by other people's misconceptions of us or the wounds that we've received. So in order to really start living your own life, and I think everyone has to do this, especially if they build their own business, is to shatter that reality and start building from the ground up who you want yourself to be, who you want to surround yourself with, and what you want to accomplish. Because the only person that can change your beliefs is you.
That's so true. I love that. Yeah. I mean, we just, sometimes when we've gone through these things growing up, especially for those of us who are bullied, I mean, what, like we said, what was said to us, what was done to us, that can become our reality. And we think that that's, who we have to be for the rest of our lives, but it's not true. I mean, we have that power within us to create the life that we want for ourselves and to become, that person that we want to be. So
Yeah.
I think that's what's really inspiring about your story, Michelle. So, kind of tell us, a little bit about the work that you do today, and because I know that you're all about helping women become visible. Tell us a little bit more about that and kind of how you got started with that.
Absolutely. And with your permission, I just want to hit one more time on, I don't want people to hear this and go, oh, Michelle healed herself and now she's, perfect or doesn't have any problems. Like, I've taken a lot of hits this last year, but the difference is that I have the tools in order to get out of it and not let it damage my psyche. So I think that's really important too, because a lot of us, especially when we've been bullied, we just keep hiding and we keep getting these hits and we think they're never going to stop. And I think the best way that you can do that, like we said, is through shifting your mindset and doing daily meditation and all of those things, but also just trusting that once you have these tools like Broken Children, Grown Up Pain, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, if you want to come in my course Life Reboot, then you can get out of those so much faster. And so they more quickly become scars instead of those bleeding wounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that because, I mean, it's true. There are going to be times where we're going to continue to struggle with things. It's not going to be, smooth sailing. And, but the important thing is that we have these tools available to us that we can turn to so that we don't struggle as much as we used to in the past and really get set back by it.
Absolutely. So thank you for letting me say that. And to answer your question, yeah, I have been building the empire of Visibility Vixen for the past 2 years. Was nothing of what I thought I was going to be doing, to be honest with you. I was a stand-in in television shows for years and years, which is where you are in front of the camera replacing the actress between takes, but never when the camera is actually rolling. So talk about an invisible life. I was the queen. So now being able to help women with their mission, with the right online systems to help leverage their time, with choosing their brand colors specifically and intentionally, with teaching them how to create Hollywood type videos, doing powerful live streams, and even podcasting. It's so much fun to be able to show them this entirely new world where they can be seen, where their opinion matters, and where they can actually affect more people with a life mission than we ever thought possible. So I absolutely love that. And I do that through online courses. I do that through my Facebook group, The Visible Entrepreneur, the podcast Visibility Vixen, and coming up in August, I am unrolling my group coaching program.
Nice. Now, were you someone who always wanted to be visible, or did you have any fear around that at first?
Oh, I wanted it so bad. From when I was a little girl, my dad is a director, and I would beg, please, I want to be an actress. I want to be an actress. And he had worked with so many kid actors. He knew the kind of damage they received growing up in Hollywood. And so he told me no, until I went to film school for college. And then he gave me the green light. I tried to break into the business. I got a bunch of different agents. None of them ever really worked for me. I just got chewed up and spit out so much. I was in an acting class where the coach told me that I was too ugly and too fat to be an actress and I should do something else. And I'm convinced that that's what psychologically had me become a stand-in, because I could be in front of the camera, but not when it was recording. I had little triumphs, like a TV pilot that I shot that we pitched all over to these different networks, and I was feeling on top of the world and that I was finally in my purpose. And then another network stole the show, stole the title, altered a few things about the characters so that I couldn't sue them, and aired that. So I've had so many heartbreaks with visibility that you'd think that I would just go live under someone's stairs. But God worked it all out for good, because I am able to relate to women. I have women come into my Comfy on Camera challenge that email me and say, I'm covered in hives, I'm sweating, I've been crying all day, I am terrified to go live because of their wounds, because of their visibility blocks. And who better to understand that than me? I've endured, for lack of a better term, a lot of humiliation with my visibility journey. So I feel so privileged to understand that pain and be able to facilitate an option for them to feel safe, to feel like they can grow and change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think for anyone who's been bullied, I mean, and speaking from experience for myself, I think sometimes you want to be invisible. You
Yeah.
want to do that to try to protect yourself and hopefully keep yourself from being a target. But then hopefully, we get to a point one day where we want to put ourselves out there, but we're not used to it. We didn't grow up that way. We grew up, hiding. And so it's scary, and there's that fear there. Um, Maybe could you share like a couple things that you've learned in the work that you've done with helping women become visible that, can help anyone who has fear around putting themselves out there?
I would love to. I think the most important thing, and it's hard to grab onto this because it can kind of make you a little mad, and that's okay. But it's that bravery is built, strength is built. There are people out there, and I grew up with a lot of them, the actresses that just, it's like, not to name names because she's a wonderful person, but I worked on the show Pretty Little Liars. One of the actresses, literally one of her first auditions was for that show, and she was able to come to Hollywood and is now a well-known actress. So that can make you crazy if you've had so much blood, sweat, and tears. But the difference is, for her and what she's doing and who she's reaching, it's nice. It's in different movies. It's entertainment. But for what all of the pain that I've been through, it's because I am serving in a much bigger way in terms of helping people. And I don't mean that to sound egotistical. What I'm trying to say is, if you have been bullied, if you've been through so many wounds, you have to understand, you have to take how much of a personal attack that feels and step out of that and go, this was allowed because it's forged this deep character where, with the mission that God's given me, I can really reach people exactly where they're at. And when that shift starts to happen, then you get more focused on the mission instead of the wounds. And what really helps me is because, I still have people that either email me and, crazy stuff, or, people in my life that can come at me with something that isn't even true. And what I really try to remember is that just like I might be afraid of stepping in front of the camera because of my wounds, when anyone else is reacting against me in a negative way that reminds me of bullying, it's because they're in their wounds. So I always try to give grace, going, I don't know their background. I don't know what pain they've been through. And I know pretty much for sure that they aren't equipped with the tools to heal themselves, and I am. So I know better. I know better than lashing back out. I know what my mission is, and I'm going to stay focused on that. Because when we're focused on the wounds, when we're focused on, I've been bullying and I want to just kind of hide in my closet, we're recreating the past. We're convinced that that bully's coming back, that someone else is going to see us that way. And because those are our thoughts, that becomes our reality. So if you've been bullied in the past or wounded in the past, whether it was your parents, your siblings, your friends, your family, you will keep recreating that pattern to re-solidify those thoughts, to keep creating that experience in your daily life. So when I really started breaking those patterns, my parasitical relationships left voluntarily over the course of a year. And now I'm very vigilant with my boundaries, and I only allow people in my life that are uplifting and supportive. But I had to make that change. And that's the hard thing, because when we're bullied, we want everyone else to change because we want to be treated better. But it all really starts with us, just like it started with me at 14 years old, going into school with that different mindset. So I think that's really the foundational layer before you do anything else or pick up a camera or step out in your business. Those are the things that really need to be hashed out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. We really need to just work on breaking that cycle and realizing that just because, someone hurt us in the past doesn't mean that, someone's going to hurt us today. Or I think also just believing in ourselves more and believing in ourselves enough to know that if someone tries to hurt us today, we can stand up for ourselves now, and hopefully we've been able to acquire the skills to do that along the way. And the thing is, we all deserve to be able to put ourselves out there and to be visible. We all have that right, and it's unfortunate when people from our past have kind of, taken that away from us, and we allow that to continue into our present.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think that we allow it to be taken away because we adopt how they see us as the way we see ourselves. And your worth is your most precious commodity. No matter how many friends you get, if you marry the perfect man, if you make $1 million, none of that will shape or affirm your worth. That's all stuff that is done in the privacy of our own hearts. But those are the building blocks of how we can really, truly succeed and live abundant lives. And that's a journey that I feel like I'm still on. There are days where I wake up and the past comes hurtling back at me. It's hard not to live in your wounds. It's hard to not validate your existence from your past. But every day is a new day. You have to, be journaling out who you are and actively shaping who you are, because otherwise we keep living in that past and we keep affirming those past experiences in our daily life. And now when people do maybe come at me in an aggressive way or whatever, I try to never react emotionally, and I just look at it and I take a step back. I never respond right away to that text or that call or that reaction. And I just go, they're in their wounds. And I can make the choice that today I'm not. And that has always, always served me. And I wish I would have learned that at like 8 years old, right?
Right. Would have made things so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. So, Michelle, I'm going to ask you the final question that I have for you today.
Give it to me.
All right. And that is, given what you know now, if you could go back to when you were going through your tough times and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
That's hard. I feel like I would have like a 3-hour long lecture prepared for her. I'm picturing myself, I think I was 13, and at lunchtime, I would sit in front of my next class because then I wouldn't have to walk down the hallways to get ridiculed. And that was probably the lowest of the low for me. And I think what I would say is, you're taking all of this personally. You don't know what has happened in her past to make her treat you like this. And if you keep allowing this, you yourself are going to be responsible for your detriment, not her, not anyone else. It's going to be you. So remember who you were built to be, get up and start creating your future instead of living in the past.
Love it. Yeah.
And then maybe, give her a wedgie to just solidify my point.
Yeah. And, it's not always easy for someone to hear that sort of thing, but that's what's going to help you to start moving forward, and having that realization that, we have more power than we realize, and we can do something about how our life is.
Well, yeah, because what's worse is it taking that advice and feeling hurt about it for a couple hours or continuing to live the way that you're living. And I so wish I would have known that earlier, because that was true misery,
Absolutely. So before I let you go, what is the best way for people to find out more about you and connect with you?
Absolutely. I would love to connect. You can find me on my site at visibilityvixen.com. Otherwise, you can come into my free Facebook group, The Visible Entrepreneur, and you can always listen to the podcast, Visibility Vixen.
All right. Sounds good. And I will have all your links over on the show notes page. So just thank you, Michelle, for coming on here today, for sharing your story and your message. And I think it's really inspiring and hopeful. And I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. It was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
All right. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the show today. This has been the Grass Gets Greener podcast, episode 111. Go to thegrassgetsgreener.com/Michelle Lewis to find the links mentioned during this episode or to leave a comment. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and found Michelle's story to be inspiring. And I do hope that you take to heart that we do have the power to change our reality. You can take charge of your life and create the future that you want for yourself. And I want to mention something that you'll also find linked up over on the show notes page that wasn't mentioned in the episode. So after our call, Michelle shared with me a book that she wrote called 10 Steps to Stop Bullies Now, True Stories and Advice for Change at Any Age. And she wanted to share that with me in case I thought it might be of interest to you guys. So I've gone ahead and put that over on the show notes page in case you're interested in checking that out. And also don't forget to grab your free copy of the top 10 most common strategies my guests have used for overcoming past trauma over on the show notes page as well. And again, that's at thegrassgetsgreener.com/Michelle Lewis. And come back in 2 weeks for the next episode. I'm going to be joined by Dr. Rose Mina, who has a really inspiring story of overcoming 23 years of sexual abuse while growing up in East Africa. And now she's here in the U.S., and she's getting her story out there and helping other survivors as well. And lastly, don't forget to head over to iTunes or Stitcher to leave the show a rating and review if you haven't done so yet, so that we can reach as many survivors as possible. And, as always, have hope.